It's time to learn the art of fully clothed foreplay. In today's video, I'm gonna go over some extremely powerful foreplay tips that you can use that get women absolutely dripping wet before you've even laid a finger on it. You see, foreplay is about building sexual tension even before you ever touch each other, even before you that first kiss, before you start taking each other's clothes off, even before you actually meet up. You can start implementing elements of foreplay to build up the sexual tension between you and a woman. So what is sexual tension exactly? Well, sexual tension is really about the unknown, mystery, the intrigue, the anticipation of what is to come. That is really what the core of sexual tension is. And remember that your greatest asset when it comes to building sexual tension is actually a woman's imagination. Her own mind is going to do so much of the work for you in terms of arousing her and turning her on, as long as you know the right mental buttons to push. And at the end of this video, I'm actually gonna show you a couple of text messages from some women I've seen. Basically just got their honest opinions on what exactly I was doing correctly that really turned them on. And so I sent them this text message over here. Stick around to the end of the video and I'll show you some honest answers from a couple of women to these exact questions. So here are 5 powerful foreplay tips that you can use to build up that sexual tension and get her wanting to rip your clothes off before she even sees you. Number 1, specific instructions. Meet me here at this time and wear that cute red dress that I saw in your profile. These kinds of very, very specific, very, very clear instructions not only come across as very, very masculine, kind of bossy in a way, might even say a little bit controlling, it tells her that you're the kind of man who goes after what he wants. You're the kind of man with a plan, you've got direction, you've got decisiveness. These are all really attractive traits for men, and you can display so much about your personality with a simple message like that. Telling her what to wear especially is a really, really good one, because women rack their brains about what dress to put on when they're getting ready to go on a date. So you've just made the whole choice a lot easier. But the second thing you can do with this is when you do see her on the date and you see her wearing that dress you told her to wear, compliment her. Reward her good behavior, reward her compliance. And also these kind of specific instructions are a way for you to actually test for her level of interest in you and her level of compliance. Those two things go hand in hand. If she's a bit on the fence about you, you'll probably not get as positive a response. Whereas if she is already very much into you, she's going to be a lot more compliant with any of your instructions and directions. Number 2, sending voice notes. Voice notes are a fantastic opportunity for you to display confidence, cockiness, being a bit flirtatious, and you can be very deliberate with the way you talk during a voice note. So you can deliberately lower the tone of your voice a little bit, give it a downward inflection, get that little bit of bass in there. That's gonna come across extremely sexy. So what kind of things can you say on a voice note? What should you say on the voice note? Well, okay, like we just said, orders, instructions, flirtatious questions, being a little bit cocky and funny, being a little bit curious or complimenting something about her that you notice, something unique about her that you notice. Any of these things come across very, very well in a voice note. Now, most guys are too shy and they're not confident enough to actually send a voice note. So just by doing it in the first place, you're gonna stand out from the crowd. Now, the interesting thing is that women tend to interpret boldness and standing out from the crowd as leadership, as signs of good leadership qualities, and these obviously are very, very attractive things for a man to embody. Number 3, calling her a good girl. This always goes down really well, and if it doesn't, then she ain't into you in the first place, my friend. Calling her a good girl of a voice note or over text when she's done something correctly, when she's complied, when she's done something you wanted her to do. Any kind of act of compliance that you feel deserves to be rewarded, okay, great opportunity for you to type in or say, good girl. What does this do? It creates, to a degree, that kind of dominant-submissive dynamic from the very start. Again, remember what I said at the beginning of the video. If you can get her imagination running, call her a good girl, and then let that stew in her mind and let that take her down whatever deep, dark, twisted sexual fantasy she wants to go down with that. Number 4, ambiguity. You don't want to be Mr. Available all the time, and you'll actually see exactly an example of this in the text messages I'm going to show you. It is a fine balancing act, but you want to balance like the intention and like locking in a date against being like Mr. Text message, Mr. Reply, Mr. Back and forth like all the time. You don't want to have like an endless conversation that goes nowhere, because you want to come across as a guy who's actually doing things, a guy who has a a life, a guy who is busy, he's chasing goals, he's pursuing his dreams, he's doing things by being Mr. like always available, Mr. always like replying back to her instantly, gives her the impression that you really don't have much else going on. She has to understand and get the impression that she isn't a priority, she has to fit into your schedule. Now, sexual tension will tend to dwindle down if you don't set up a date pretty quickly. And this is just because there's no real world context for this woman to engage with you or to like learn anything about you, unless you're very, very active on, say, like Instagram, for example, and she can kind of vicariously live through your stories. Number 5, assume success. That's why being cocky and confident is actually very, very attractive, because it's the man assuming the win. It's the man assuming the sale. He's assuming success from the get-go. And you can communicate this through, you know, flirtatious, cocky kind of text messages and kinds of So an example of something I very often say is, I have a feeling we're gonna get along great. Like, I'll say that before the date, and then on the date as well, when we're, you know, we actually are getting along, surprise, surprise, and we know we're having a great time, she's laughing, I'll stop and I'll say, see, I knew we'd get along. I'm coming across as very self-assured, I'm coming across as confident, I'm coming across as a bit cocky, I'm assuming the sale in that regard. Another example is something like, how many kids can you give? I'll ask this on a first date sometimes as well, and I do it in a funny way. I'm not in a like a really autistic, like, how many kids can you get, like super serious. It's said as a joke. Now, you do have to balance this out. She can't feel like she's won you over yet. You can do this a little bit too much and come across as just too keen. So you have to kind of balance it a little bit and make her feel like she hasn't quite won you over yet. There has to be a little seed of doubt in her mind. Like, does he really like me that much? And a large part of that is really just literally just finding out more things about it. The element of curiosity, that element of discovering things about a woman, it implies that you're qualifying her as well. So you have standards that she has to meet, and you're finding out if she does in fact meet those standards. So let's show a couple of examples of you know, these honest reviews, I guess you might say, from a couple of different women when I asked them this question. What are some of the things that I do which make you dripping wet before you even see me? And what is something that I do on a date that makes you want to fuck my brains out when we get home together? This first girl comes up with, a lot of things come to my mind, but they're all related to the concept of being a real man. Absolutely not common nowadays. You showed me so much confidence from first date. English isn't her first language, as you can probably tell. Super attractive because it gives me the feeling that you know exactly what you want and allows me to relax so I can just be present. There are a lot more things you do when we meet than before text. You're a little reserved by text, which is not bad because it makes me want to see you more, just to get that attention from you. So I said being a bit ambiguous, not being Mr. like available all the time, that's exactly what that comes across as to the woman. That's exactly how she emotionally interprets it. Things I find super sexy when we meet. The way you lead, anything, just simple things like ordering the food. I'm a big fan of doing that, by the way. If I invite a woman out to dinner, especially if I know the restaurant and I've been to the restaurant before and I know the menu really well, I'll just tell her, hey babe, you okay if I just order all the food for us? I know the menu really well. I want to show you some of the best stuff on it. She can sit back, relax. I'll order her drinks for her. I'll order her food for her. She doesn't have to worry about a damn thing. Being protective and kind of possessive with comments and actions that you do. There's a few comments I remember in Gouacho when I said that waiters never look at me. In this context, she was trying to get the attention of some waiters and they were just ignoring her. Apparently I replied with, well, you better fucking keep it that way. In a joking context, that was a joke. That wasn't super, super serious. And she says that's so fucking sexy. I find it so sexy, a possessive man, and that actually makes me focus on just being 100% feminine. Little gestures like giving the hand every time we pass through people or helping me in hills or stairs, pulling the chair out in a restaurant, not looking at my phone. Some looks that you have at me, the way your friends or normal people pay respect to you, that's super important. That's another big thing. If your friends are very respectful of you around your woman, comes across incredibly well. I'm a big proponent of like always walking her hand in hand, like having her arm wrap around my arm whenever we're walking somewhere, or hold her hand and leading her through some places, up and down stairs, especially if she was wearing high heels. These are all gentlemanly gestures, by the way. Like these are not simpy things. These are all really masculine, gentlemanly gestures, and women go crazy for this stuff. She continues, but the top thing is the way you lead in sex by just adding new extra things to do every time that makes me think, what is coming next? I tell you guys all the time, you gotta lead in the bedroom. This is actually the main thing that makes me want more. And also that you have that much experience in sex, which I don't, makes me relax and be submissive, so I just have to follow the lead. Women do not care about a man's body count. In fact, they find it attractive when the guy actually has more sexual experience than she does. And then I asked her one more follow-up question. I said, how do you feel when I give you kisses on the forehead? The intention is to create, and it's exactly what she interpreted as, the intention is to create that feeling of being protected by me. And she says, I love it, it's a symbol of protection. All right, on to example number 2. There's another girl. She says, on a date, touching my legs, being firm with me. There's a look you give me as well, like you know exactly what you're going to do with me when we get home. You know exactly how to tread the line between chivalrous and perverted. That's a very, very great bit of feedback right there. See what I was saying before, this other stuff I mentioned before, holding her hand, like walking up and down the stairs, like ordering her food for her, opening the doors for her, pulling her chair out. These are all gentlemanly things, that's all chivalrous stuff. And I balance that with the sexy, like I'm gonna rip your panties off when I get you home look in my eyes. So there's a nice balance which creates like the chivalrous, like protective side of her need for protection is being taken care of, but then I'm also like fueling the sexual arousal side of things. So she gets the best of both worlds with me. When you were telling me how many drinks I could have, telling me to drink water, etc., etc., that was really hot. That's so funny, yeah, because like I think we were drinking by the beach or something, and this girl was like probably getting a little bit too drunk too quickly. She's a very tiny girl. And so I said, look, you're drinking water for the next two drinks because I need you to slow down. That bossiness, like that's misogynistic, that's controlling. It's fucking sexy when women hear that. According to women, it's sexy. So don't run around thinking that kind of stuff is not going to be interpreted well. It is. When you paid for the table next to us, we were out on the Sunday, that like genuinely being a good person, not for show, but because it was a nice thing to do for someone else, that got me right in the feels. Plus, knowing that you have the capacity to be rough and dominant alongside that is very attractive. I don't know, you just exude huge dick energy. And then again, how do you feel when I give you kisses on the forehead? Weak, but in the best possible way. Sleeping with your arms around me was the safest I've felt in a long time. That's exactly how a woman should feel. I've honestly been walking around in a lovely little haze ever since. It's like you picked me up and firmly placed me into my feminine energy. So there you go, straight from the horse's mouth. Some real practical, honest feedback from a couple of women. You want to try and elicit an emotional reaction out of your woman every time you're interacting with her. Every time you're interacting with her, somehow spiking an emotional, creating an emotional response. Men have the problem of trying to always kind of communicate very matter-of-factly and straight to the point. I think it's a bit of a mistake that guys make where they'll try to communicate in a very, very logical manner like that. And look, if you want to find out some more mistakes that men tend to make, particularly in the bedroom, then you should check out this video right over here.